Hello, you wonderful people. So for today's video, I'm going to talk about Jak and Daxter. It's a video game series that I've been a big fan of. If you're unaware what Jak and Daxter is, it is this action-adventure platformer, I think you'd be kind of classified as, games that were originally on the PlayStation 2. In totality, there are 6 games. I've only ever played 3, that being the main 3. Jak and Daxter was in the Legacy of the Precursor. I'm always forgetting the subtitle. Jak 2 and Jak 3. I never played Daxter, which was the PSP game that takes place in between Jak 1 and Jak 2, which is interesting because even to this point in time, I've still never looked into it to know what the actual story was there, like what Daxter got up to in that time frame, that 2-year period it took him to save Jak. I think it's 2 years if I'm not mistaken. I've never played Jak X, mainly because I wasn't big into, racing games. But there is main overarching plot in that too. And then there's also the last game in the series, at least that I'm aware of, which is I think it was also a PSP game. Maybe it was a Vita game. It could have been both. But to my knowledge, it wasn't made by Naughty Dog. I think Daxter still was, but I don't know about Jak X. I think it was as well. Like I said, I could be wrong. But I know the final game in the series wasn't made by Naughty Dog, or at least the main people behind making the games didn't make it. So I think I don't know. I remember watching someone play it years ago, but it had an interesting story element where basically all the eco in the world was kind of running out. But that's all the gist I really remember about it, because I remember Jak, spoilers for Jak and Daxter, Jak was losing control of his the Dark Jak abilities. I don't remember if there was, because it talked about Dark Jak, it never really talked about his Light Jak abilities that he gained in 3. I don't think he lost those, did he? If he still got Dark Jak, I would assume he was, he'd have Light Jak as well still. Like I said, it's been years, so I don't remember. But the main reason why I was bringing this up is because it was a series I hadn't thought about it's a series that I really enjoy. I actually find it funny. I beat the games a little out of order. I played them in order, but I kind of beat them out of order because I kind of played them when they came out, each one, and I beat Jak 2 before, and then ended up going back and beating Jak 1, which is obviously Jak 2 literally picks up where Jak 1 ends, so it's kind of interesting I ended up doing that, but regardless, it's even interesting how much those games have changed, like when you go through them. Obviously, it's just a straight up more of an action platformer. Obviously, it leans more into the action aspect in 2 and 3. Well, it leans in more into it in 3, but it's obviously you get it, because it goes down a more science fictional route. It's more of a fantasy game to a certain extent in the first one, and they keep those elements, but it's more science fictional because you're more in a kind of almost post-apocalyptic world, pretty much a post-apocalyptic world in 2 and 3, because you're kind of, spoilers, thrown super far into the future. Regardless, I'm going on this huge tangent about everything, but I kind of always like the darker element of 2 and 3. Some people might be like, oh, Jak turned into an angelord, to each their own, but also the gun element to it all. And just it's almost like very different games when you go from 1 to 2, and obviously 2 and 3 are very similar in that regard. But regardless, the reason why I was bringing it up and going back to it, I'm so sorry, is that I actually looked into it yesterday, at the time we were recording this, where I'd looked into, because I was curious whether there was going to be any talk about rebooting these games, and rebooting them or even doing remakes, just because obviously this is a Naughty Dog property. And interestingly enough, I've seen only a little bit of The Last of Us 2, but pretty early on in the game, when you're controlling Ellie and you're in one of her rooms, you can see there's I think a PS3, and then there's a Jak and Daxter game. I think Jak and Daxter, or I think it was Jak and Daxter, or it might have been one of the other Jaks, and I don't remember, but it was one of the Jak games. And because obviously Naughty Dog has done that before, because in Uncharted 4, Nate and Elena are playing the original Crash Bandicoot, which is interesting because a couple years later on, they would eventually release the remaster. So part of me wonders, could that have been a slight hint to be well, maybe, just maybe I said remasters, but remakes. Just because obviously a lot of games have kind of gotten that treatment. Obviously we have the Spyro games, and obviously, like I said, the Crash Bandicoot games. I think it's a completely different team that went behind the remakes. It wasn't the original team. So, but also the reason I bring that up too, because it's interesting, because even amongst that, a remaster or anything, or remake, I think there are probably remasters out there. I could be mistaken. Do forgive me if I'm wrong, but I know there definitely aren't any remakes. So I'd love to see them remake those games and see what they would do with that. But it also puts this, because of maybe the success of the remakes of the 3 Crash games, I think that led to them being like, hey, like, because I think they obviously remade Crash Team Racing, and eventually a new game came about, Crash for About Time. So part of me wonders, like, if they remaster these games, which I'm assuming would, kind of package deal them, like maybe they do it with Daxter, maybe that include Jak X, and maybe they include the other one, I don't know, or maybe they just stick to the main 3 and not include Daxter or Jak X, who knows. But that could put it enough in the zeitgeist enough to be like, hey, there's enough people behind these remakes that it's like, hey, let's make a new Jak game, because I'd love to kind of explore that world. And like I said, because it's been years since I've seen the last game, so I don't remember what exactly went down. Because I think the Crash game, like Crash 4, I think ignores like other Crash games that came after those main 3, I believe. Because obviously that's kind of been like the reboot thing recently, and like, all these sequels take place after all the what are generally considered the good ones. That's been a big thing, in the movie space. And stuff like that. So it's fascinating. I would love, because I haven't played those games in years. But I'd love to, get like a remaster of those games, just because I enjoyed them so much. I enjoyed the world. I'm also be curious to see what they would do with the 4th, because obviously each game comes about because it's like, oh, there's a new Jak. Jak 2, because there's 2 Jaks, regular Jak and dark Jak. And like I said, with 3, it's like, oh, there's normal Jak, light Jak, and dark Jak. Just what kind of misadventures they'd go down on. Because I wouldn't want like a full reboot of just like, oh, let's ignore it. It's like, no, I want things to kind of stay where they are, especially the canon of, Jak finding out about his circumstances. Obviously, if you've never played a game, I won't spoil it, but obviously Jak learns about himself. I believe it was in 2 he learned about him. No, it's 2 he learns more about himself. He obviously learns even more about himself in 3, but I don't know. They're just games that I really enjoyed, that I would love to see kind of get remade, and to the point that we eventually get another one in the series. I'd like that. Like I said, from what I read literally just yesterday, it doesn't seem like there's currently anything in the works, but that doesn't mean like there could be something in the near future. So I think that'd be pretty dope. Obviously, I've been rambling on long enough. Obviously, this is just kind of my thoughts about everything. I'd love to get to know, are you someone who's ever played the Jak and Daxter game? Once again, obviously it's only Jak and Daxter in the first one. It's just Jak in the later games, but how many of them have you played? Have you only played the main 3 like I have? Have you played all 6 games? Let me know just your thoughts about those individual games, but also like, would you want a remaster? Well, like I said, if there is a remaster, if there isn't one, would you want one? But more specifically, would you want a remake? And are you someone that would want a new Jak game? Let me know your thoughts. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.